We will now look at the collection interface. So we already know that collection represents a group of objects, and that group of objects is itself an object. The collection interface is used to pass collections around and manipulate them, especially when maximum generality is required. This is the same concept as creating a lion class, but using the animal class name for creating your variable. What we were trying to do there is create a variable that has the most general possible definition. When we need the same thing for collections, we define our collection using collection, and that helps us to pass collections around and manipulate them when the maximum amount of generality is required. The collection interface is pretty straightforward, so we will dive right into the methods. There are many methods that are present for the collection interface. We will only go through a few of them that are important. One of the first methods that we would discuss is contains. So let's say we have a collection and that collection's name is my collection. So if we call the method contains by typing my collection dot contains object X, then it would return true if the collection contains that object. If my collection contains the object X, then I will get true as the result. If my collection does not contain object X, then a false will be returned. So this is pretty straightforward. The next method is equals. So here we are comparing our whole collection with the object X. Remember that our collection is in itself an object. And when we try and compare it with object X using the equals method, what it does is that it compares object X to the whole collection to check if object X is equal to my collection. The next method that we will discuss is empty. So again, this is a check. What it checks for is if the collection has any elements. If the collection has no elements, then this returns true. If the collection has some elements, if the collection has some objects stored in it, then a false is returned. Collection interface also has a size method, and this returns the number of elements that are present in the collection. If the collection is empty, then size returns 0. And lastly, the collection interface has a method called toArray. So let's say the collection is called my collection, as we discussed before, and it has 6 objects: object 1, object 2, object 3, object 4, object 5, and object 6. If you call the toArray method on my collection, then a new array would be created, and that array will contain all the elements of the collection. So that array in this case will have 6 elements, and those would be the 6 objects that were in our my collection object. So the collection interface gives us a lot of these different types of methods that can be used to interact with the collection that we are working with at the moment. Also keep in mind that collection interface inherits all the methods of the iterable interface as well, because the collection interface extends the iterable interface. In the next few videos, we will be looking at other interfaces that extend the collection interface itself. Let's move on to discussing the list interface.